Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Progressive HR Live. This is a rescheduled event from last week when LinkedIn live streaming went down and Brittany and I wondered what was the problem. So we rescheduled to today. So thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm here with Brittany Palmer, the co-founder of, the founder of Beeyonder, founder and CEO of Beeyonder. And today we're going to be talking about inclusive employee benefits. How are you today, Brittany, and where are you streaming from?
I'm good. I am streaming from just outside the Boston area.
Oh,
How are
fantastic.
you?
I'm good. I'm streaming outside of Madison, Wisconsin, and we're supposed to be having a spring right now, but we're still getting snow. So at least it's in the forecast. It's going to be snow this weekend and then 70s next week. So, if you've ever visited Wisconsin, that's just kind of how we roll. So, so Brittany, what is Beyonder's origin story?
Yeah, so when the pandemic hit and everything was shut down, including our ability to travel, I started seeing virtual travel experiences pop up here and there. And I thought it would be a great way to see places that I might not get to see in person. I have a disability. It doesn't typically prevent me from traveling, but I also have some joint issues that make it really difficult to walk long distances without being in a lot of pain. So I looked at my personal experiences also as a caregiver previously, and I did some research as to who else might see this as a benefit to their disability or other limited mobility. And found that there are more than 50 million people in the US alone that have conditions or disabilities that prevent or inhibit travel. And I really wanted people to be able to find places in one location with qualified guides and really bring equal access to travel. So we launched Beeyonder as a marketplace for live and interactive virtual travel experiences. And after that launch, we found a much wider audience with interest in virtual tours, families and schools, and those who can't financially travel to certain places, caregivers, as well as corporate groups for their employees. So it really mushroomed into something a lot bigger than I was expecting.
That's amazing, Brittany. And I know myself as I came across Beeyonder because I was looking for something that my family could do because I have young children and I can't travel, during over the pandemic, even when things opened up, because that big fear of that I would be stuck somewhere and not be able to get back to my kids. So I greatly appreciate the work you're doing and especially the positivity and the importance of what you're putting out there in the world. So I'm going to go to our comments now and greet the people who are joining us today. And we have Melinda from Texas. Hi, Melinda. Melinda was a past guest. She's actually our second guest on Progressive HR Live back a few months ago. And then we have Saeed he didn't say where he's from. And then, of course, more people from Texas. Rob coming in from Dallas, Texas. And Saeed said he's from Bangladesh. So welcome, Saeed. And we've got a few more people. John Haney from Mills, Massachusetts, right? MA is Massachusetts. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then Shelly from Madison, Wisconsin. Shelly from my hometown. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're going to go back to our questions now. And a really interesting question for Brittany. And if you have any questions or comments for Brittany or for myself, please add them to the comments as we will respond live. So we've been talking a lot about inclusive benefits in the media and in the HR space. And when we talk about inclusive benefits, we're not necessarily thinking about including the populations that you had talked about, people with disabilities, people who are caregivers, people who can't necessarily, different socioeconomic backgrounds. So I wanted to ask you, why are inclusive benefits important to add to the employer's benefit stack?
Sure. So I mean, I think now there's been so many articles out there about diverse and inclusive workforce having so many benefits to a company, from boosting morale and improving brand loyalty to improving financial performance. There was an article recently that talked about how corporations identified as having a diverse and inclusive workforce are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors. And when you have that diverse and inclusive workforce, it's made up of a lot of different types of individuals with varying abilities and challenges and needs. And they can't always be effectively addressed using a traditional one-size-fits-all approach to benefit and perk offerings. And in addition to that, most benefits really fail to include people with disabilities and those in non-traditional circumstances, such as being a caregiver. And even more so than that, I think a lot of people who are in hiring roles right now are finding it difficult to attract and retain good talent. And this is a way for employers to provide perks that are differentiating from other companies and again, attract and retain those employees who are looking for not just, a paycheck, but something more, knowing that their employer really cares about who they are and, their differences to others.
And exactly. And that's why I appreciate what Beeyonder is doing so very, very much. We had a few more people join us, and I'm just going to let them see here. We have Amy from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and Jennifer from New Jersey, Jen from New Jersey, and Camille from Boston. You've got your people representing you here of Massachusetts side. And then Jose Paul from Milwaukee. We got one more person just jumped on. Sharmila from New Hampshire. Wow, we got a great group today. As preparation for this live, I looked up the definition of inclusive benefits and on Google, and this is what I found. Inclusive benefit is a benefit that is accessible to all employees regardless of age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or marital status. And this definition fails to mention what Brittany is trying to accomplish with including those employees that need more accessibility, with disabilities, that are caregivers, and again, from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So an audience poll here on a scale of 1 to 10, how inclusive are your organization's benefit stack? 1 being just normal, traditional benefits, no perks, just straightforward, to 10 being that you have so many different benefits that cover all walks of employee status and employee situations. So go ahead and add your numbers to the comments, and I'll ask Brittany this question and then go back to the audience poll here. So what is virtual travel, and what types of virtual travel do you offer?
Sure. So there are a lot of different types of virtual travel. I think a lot of people are more familiar with the pre-recorded versions that you see maybe on TV that are or on YouTube. But the virtual travel that we offer at Beeyonder is a lot different than those. It's live and interactive. So you have a live, like on a Zoom call, for example, where you actually are able to talk to the guide, ask questions, and really interact with them. And all of our tours are live. So we have 2 different types of tours. One is a live from the street walking tour, where a guide has their phone and like a stabilizer, where they walk you around the streets or even in the jungles of Costa Rica and give you a tour just as if you were there in person. And the other type is presentation style. So using videos and pictures and slides to iterate a presentation style version, but take you through a particular location. All of our guides are really qualified and vetted before they go on the site. So they either have a significant amount of experience in whatever they're giving a tour in, or they're certified tour guides of a particular location. And both types of virtual travel that we offer are super popular and really loved by those that have taken our tours.
Thanks, Brittany. I'm going to check in with the poll really quickly. So we've had about 4 answers here. Amy said her organization's at a 1. Rob said a 5. Jennifer said a 5. And Shelley said a 1. So yeah, not wholly inclusive of what we're talking about here. So thanks everybody for joining in and engaging on that poll. And we're going to do actually a really interesting tour now for everyone. We're going to go walking through some of the streets of Amsterdam with our guide. And our guide, and what's the guide's name, Brittany?
It's Mark. Mark is our guide in Amsterdam, and one of our most popular guides as well.
Yeah, I could totally tell he's very, very popular. He engaged me the whole time that I was watching this virtual tour. So at the end, Mark asks everyone, he has a little quiz for everyone, and please add your answer to the quiz in the comments. I'd like to see what everybody thinks. So, okay, let's go to Amsterdam.
Amsterdam is named because it was a settlement around a dam on the Amstel River. And that's what we're looking at here, is the mouth of the Amstel River. Well, it was. It's not anymore, because you can see there's some buildings over there. And they actually block the river completely. They weren't very sentimental about their river. They filled it in for building things. But the river flowed towards us this way. And it flowed around here. That's the main road, by the way, that leads to the dam of Amsterdam. But the river flowed this way here, and it flowed out into an estuary, which was tidal, so salt water. And it would have been a forest of masts over here. Clearly, it's not an estuary anymore because there's a big red brick building there, and that is Central Station, built in the 1880s. And a lot of Amsterdammers didn't like that at the time because they felt it landlocked them. It took away their Venetian element. But it's a pretty popular building nowadays. It's architecturally interesting, and it links us to Europe very conveniently. You can be in London and King's Cross on the Eurostar in no time at all. It's about 3.5 hours, I think. Same to Paris. Brussels even quicker. You probably want to fly to Berlin, but you can go by train. Overnight train to Vienna, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, we're still kind of connected in the old center here. Now, walking through these little streets, you'll see a lot of buildings from the 1700s. Now have a look at the building ahead. It's actually leaning forwards. Can you see that here? Some buildings lean forwards and some don't. They were actually built that way. I'll come back to why in just a second. I do just want to talk about the flag. The flag is the Amsterdam flag, and it comes from the city crest. So there's a shield, and it has this design vertically on the shield, the 3 X's on black with red either side, and everyone loves the flag here because it's very visually striking, isn't it? I mean, not difficult to like. And this building here, the one that leans forwards, here's the date on it, 1618. Isn't that amazing? Pretty cool stuff. And these ones here, you can also see at the end of this alleyway, they also lean forwards, like that. Now, just past the corner here on the right is one of the 2 remaining wooden houses in town. All the rest burnt down or fell down. And this is by far the prettiest. Black one here. And with this one, you see it comes up and it goes out a bit, up, out a bit, up. And the reason for that was so that when rain hit the top, the water would fall down and it would fall past the lower levels, which was much better for the wear and tear of the building. So that's why one of the main reasons why they had them coming out a little bit like this. And when the city said, okay, look, we've got too many fires happening, you need to use bricks, what they did is they sort of followed that line out and made the buildings lean slightly forward, and the rain would hit the building, it would run down the brickwork, hit a ledge, and then fall past the building below. Again, better for wear and tear. And, after about 100 years, somebody said, it would be really much more convenient if we just built these buildings vertically, and materials were improving. So that's what happened in the end. They stopped banking them forwards. Now, the street that we're walking on here is actually one of the dikes, or levees, they're sometimes called in the US. And this kept Amsterdam dry from the sea. So the sea was on that side. It was tidal. And then the first early settlements, actually, always with Dutch towns, the buildings were on top of the dikes because they were the highest points of the old town. And of course, behind as well. Now, I've got a few quiz questions for you. Just in your head, basically, just decide what you think is right. This road, the Zeedijk or the Sea Dike, was the highest point of the old town. How high above sea level do you think it was? Was it 2.1 meters, 10 meters, 50 meters, or 100 meters above sea level? What do you think? 2.1 meters, 10 meters, 50 meters, or 100 meters above sea level? So if you made your choice, this dike here, this bank of earth that kept the old town dry, was actually 2.1 meters above sea level, so not much. And actually the big water defense up in the north of the country today, that's only 3 meters above sea level. So there's not a lot between us and the sea. And actually the Amsterdam Canal water is below sea level 95% of the time, which I think is quite an astonishing thought, really. It's only at the lowest of the low tides that the Amsterdam water level is above sea level.
So that was super, super interesting. And we have a few votes on the quiz. And I don't want to, Mark, right? He had told us that, you were expecting, because Amsterdam is high above and not, what am I trying to say here? That you would think Amsterdam is far higher above sea level because of the way the buildings are built. But when we don't think about it is that most of Amsterdam anyway is lower than sea level. So it's not built much higher up. So we had two guesses. We had Jennifer guessing 50 meters and Melinda guessing 10. Yeah, it was a complete surprise to me too that it was only 2.1 meters. Why should employers add Beeyonder to their benefits offerings? And why does Beeyonder go much beyond a perk?
Sure. So a lot of times with companies, their perks really only benefit the employee. And as we discussed before, it doesn't necessarily take into account many different needs or backgrounds or challenges that other employees have. With Beeyonder, it's not just used for employees, although it can be. We've had a number of companies take tours for employees, but it really is something that can be used for the employee and their family. A really wholesome perk. People can take parents or grandparents or kids on these tours and really include the whole family in that perk and that tour, especially because I'm sure I do, and I'm sure a lot of other people do have extended family members that may not be able to travel, or even themselves not be able to travel. Also, it's really rare to find a perk where that one product service is inclusive to a lot of people and can accommodate varying schedules and time zones, languages, and cultural constructs. So we have tours all around the world, and they can all take place at different times throughout the day. We have guides that speak multiple languages and can do tours in those languages. And so whether you're a domestic US company or you're an international company and have employees around the world, this is something that you can give to everyone to use, which is really nice to be able to offer that. And we're really excited about that.
I think it's especially interesting that you mentioned that Beeyonder is a benefit that covers different family constructs. So most benefits within the US, especially, or most benefits globally, only really cover or are for the employee or like the immediate family. And so when we talk about inclusive benefits, like there's different definitions of what immediate family would be in different cultures. For example, my culture, it's our immediate family, husband, wife, or wife, or husband, and the children. And that's the immediate family. In like cultures like Indian cultures, the grandparents are living with them. Their grandparents are included in immediate family. Aunts and uncles are included in immediate family. So this is for the whole family, whether it's 4 people or 20.
Yeah. And what's great too is even if they live with you or if they live somewhere else, the way that we have the tours set up is people can join the same tour from different locations or the same location and take the tour together. So you're still seeing and interacting with that family member, whether or not they're located in your home or outside your home.
Yeah, and I think, why are we discussing this? Well, we're discussing this is because, HR leaders must understand the individual health and wellness needs of their diverse workforce and ensure that their benefit plan is designed to embracing those unique needs. And investing in your employees' well-being and their futures and their benefits, that attend to these specific interests and needs is using a really wide equity lens. And, we're trying, organizations are trying. And I think that we keep widening that equity lens and to think outside of traditional benefits. And even the benefits, ones would consider, modern benefits. So, Brittany, where should we go next? Should we go maybe to the end of the world?
Everybody I think so. Yeah.
Ready for another tour? Here we go. Let's go to the end of the world.
All right. So this is Ushuaia, Argentina with Barbara. And she is going to give you a tour of the end of the world.
With a flag, and you can see this building better from here. So that's the old government house. It was also the governor's residence for many years. And now it's a museum. That, of course, it's called the End of the World Museum, as everything here, it's easy. So this is typical architecture. There was a Spanish architect who came in the early 1900s, and it is very typical from the south of Spain to have those balconies made of wood. So we have some of the first houses, they have that style. That was, because of this architect, but then if not, the houses are mostly built with metal. The metal is only the outside wall, so they are very warm houses, actually. We have natural gas in this area, so that's what we use for heating. But we use the metal outside. We have an inner wall and different insulation panels, so they're really very warm. So let's see. We're going to see the government house again, the new government house, and again, the old one. So we're going to go see a monument. It's the monument to the first inhabitants of Ushuaia, which is very nice. It's actually an albatross. The weather is it's usually cloudy like today, so we don't usually have a lot of sunny days. We are entering winter now, so the average temperature in this time of the year is 0 degrees Celsius, which is 32 Fahrenheit. That's the average. Of course, we go -10, -15 Celsius. But it's not very, very cold in the winter. There's a good reason for that, which is that we are in front of the ocean that moderates the temperature a lot. And then our latitude, if you look at a map, we are 54 degrees south. And the same latitude in the north is around the border between the US and Canada. So that means that Canada, Alaska, and well, all of the northern countries in Europe are closer to the North Pole than we are to the south. So we are the southernmost city in the world, but we're actually not that far south. If we make the comparison with the North Pole. So we have, this is Ushuaia's port, Ushuaia, fin del mundo, Ushuaia, end of the world. This is like the typical picture that you might take. And behind the sign, we have Ushuaia's port. That's the tourist pier. So those are the catamarans that offer the tours in the Beagle Channel. We have a lot of wildlife, beautiful wildlife. We have sea lions, we have cormorants, and during the summer season, we also have penguins. So you don't have to go all the way to Antarctica to see penguins. You can come here and you can see 2 species of penguins nesting in the Beagle Channel, but that's only during our summer, okay? Penguins are only during the summer.
So I got to give credit to the founders of Ushuaia, because she said that it's usually around, 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and usually cloudy most of the year. Like, I have to be very impressed with the founders for doing that. Oh my goodness. So that was a very interesting tour for me, because you think about the end. I mean, that is the end of the world. That is the last civilized place before you get to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, we're going to do a little bit of theorizing here. What's the future of inclusive benefits?
I think more companies will start recognizing the differences and the varying needs of and among their workforce, and provide benefits that are, truly benefit their diverse workforce. And it will become more mainstream. You won't necessarily hear that a company is, a disruptor in the space by offering inclusive benefits. It's really going to become more mainstream. And on the other side of that, while we're seeing some benefit and perk providers getting really creative with what they're offering companies to be able to offer their employees, we still need them to maintain awareness around inclusivity and review and potentially revise their current offerings and determine how they make those offerings more inclusive. So I think we'll see a lot more of revised and or new perks coming out from these companies that are focusing in that space.
That's interesting. I know, what is next for Beeyonder in terms of coming features or funding?
Yeah, so we actually just doubled the size of the company a few weeks ago and closed another round of funding. We're focusing on growing our client base and off to a great start, as we've done a number of tours now for some really large companies, exploring the benefit opportunities and the offerings that we can provide to companies even more than we have, and implementing a couple of different new features for both our users and our tour guides, like for sorting options and tipping and things like that, aside from what we already have on the platform. So really exciting stuff coming up in the next year.
Excellent. And congratulations on your funding.
Thank you.
So how can the audience connect with you and learn more about Beeyonder?
Yeah, so I'll put in the chat my email address, as well as the email address of our senior corporate sales executive, Sharma Patel, and her phone number. So I will do that now so that people can reach out to both of us or Sharma if you have any additional questions.
Awesome, thank you. So you can connect with Brittany and Beeyonder on LinkedIn. And then if you're interested in more information on HR tech, workforce tech, benefits, Web3, and their creator economy, you can follow me, Corinne Woodman-Hollaback, Progressive HR, and hashtag resourceful humans on LinkedIn. And if you don't want to miss any of my posts, please click the bell to subscribe. So next week, our guest is Kristen Strunk, the Director of Talent Compensation and Employee Experience with Harley-Davidson. And we're going to be talking about the truth about employee burnout. So that's going to be an excellent conversation. Join us next week, Tuesday, 4/12 at 11 Central Time, 12 Eastern Time. So we've got one comment that has come in. Melinda says, this was great. Thank you. Thank you, Melinda. And then let's me see here. We want to go. Where do we want to go? I really think that, so this I thought was extremely interesting. And I thought about this is that is it only inclusive benefit or inclusive virtual tour because you're going on the virtual tour? You can also, like, let's say I'm thinking about going to Zadar, Croatia, and I want to see one of your tours first before I kind of like prioritize where I'm going and what I want to see. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you do kind of like get into this, what we call tourist trap. And as well, I want to view, how accessible are these places that I'm going if I have somebody within my group that needs a little bit more support or is in a wheelchair or like yourself has joint issues and maybe can't walk as far. So I think this is a great way also to kind of preview destinations to help you plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's quickly go in the last few minutes here we have to this really spectacular place in Zadar, Croatia, which is by the coast. Is it by the river or the coast?
By the coast, yeah.
By the coast. Okay, let's go there.
You can sit here, you can walk through those remains of the stones that were left here since ancient period. And you can enjoy on it. So this area here is the area where the ancient forum was. And that ancient forum had the small shops, as you may see here, that are those stony remains that we see here, right here in front of my camera. So today we have shopping centers, and in the history that were small shops, and the citizens could buy everything they needed right here. You can also find here some very old sarcophagus, stony sarcophagus, and it's all standing outside of the city. On the other side, on this side, the Roman Forum, this is the area of the Roman Forum. On the other side, there was Nymphaeum with huge nympha. And Nymphaeum was very important for the water because we know without water, there is no life. The stony nympha, a beautiful, huge stony nympha we can find in the Archaeological Museum of Zadar. And that is right here in front of us, near the ancient forum. This building could not take all those stony artifacts, so some of them are outside. So when you walk through Zadar, you are walking through the museum at the open. On this side, there was a basilic right here, and basilic was one big hall, big building where all the main decisions was brought. And right here on this side, in front of me, there was the Roman temple right here. And there you can see the original remain of the Roman temple. That is one pillar. Today we call it pillar of shame, because in the Middle Age, till the Second World War, there was a green salary. And for those, where the money and where the trade is, all those places had some teeth who stole something or did something illegal. And all those who did something illegal, he was put here on this stone, on this pillar of shame, so everybody could know that he did something wrong. So this was kindly Facebook or Google of that period. And in the fourth century, when Romans accepted Christianity, the temple lost its importance. So it was completely destroyed, especially in the 6th century, when we suppose there was a big earthquake that completely destroyed that temple. And what we got, this church right here in front of me, is St. Donatus Church. All this church was built from the remains of the ancient stone. This church was built in 9th century. The main person who we are grateful for this church was the Bishop Donat, who lived in the 9th century. And let me show you the remains of the Roman temple, where you can see the pillars, the remains of pillars of the temple. And all those pillars and all those stony artifacts were put here, right here, in this church. In these foundations, you can see the remains of its pillar.
So I thought that was extremely interesting that here you have these Roman ruins, like right in the middle of the town. And I think what she was saying were the Roman sarcophaguses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then it was especially interesting that the Roman ruins were built into the church, so that you could just go up and touch something that was like, oh my gosh, how many thousands of years? I'm like over 2,000 years old. You just touch them.
Yeah.
You could jump in one of those sarcophaguses if you want. I wouldn't, because that kind of gives me the creeps. So we've got one comment coming in, and Jennifer, she says, wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for attending today, Jennifer. I wanted to thank you, Brittany, for giving us your time today and for coming on the live to show us, all about Beeyonder and what you guys have planned for the future, and some of the demos of some of your tours. Thank you so much for joining us today. And audience, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us as well to talk about Beeyonder. And I'm so appreciative of everybody on the live stream today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany. And then everybody, thank you, Resourceful Humans. Have a wonderful Tuesday.